Welcome back, travelers, to Legendary Lore, where today we're going to be seeing Elspeth's story continue. Now, last time we left off, she had just found out about Capenna. She was super excited. She's like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to find out what my home is like. And it's like, okay, go home. And it's nothing like she remembers. She feels like basically a stranger. And she doesn't really want to join any of the groups because they're all rotten crime families. And Elspeth is basically the definition of lawful good paladin. So she's going around seeing.
Wait, you mean the person that literally built up a spear to kill a god is the definition of lawful good? And made a deal with the god of the dead?
Yes, exactly.
So Wizards is also pretending that story didn't exist. Wizards is like, what's a Thero? You mean that place where we buried Gideon?
It's more that Wizards just enjoys making gods evil. Like, Heliod was the antagonist. Then it was Clothis was the antagonist. Erebos is an antagonist you have to work with. Going to Amonkhet, the Scarab, Scorpion, and Locust God were all antagonists. Nicol was the God Pharaoh.
I know, but I'm just saying the way Elspeth acted, it wasn't very lawful good in Theros.
Okay, so basically, she's just doing normal grunt work. She's just like, because she's extremely strong and healthy, she's able to just lift cement bags and stuff like that. So she just does work like that.
So she went back home to get a minimum wage job.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But while she's working in the shop that she's at, these four guys show up and they start messing with her boss. And she's like, what's happening? And she like shows up to try and like stop what's going on. And they're like, oh, who's this? And the guys at the shopkeeper's like, she's just a customer. She's not doing anything. Leave her alone. She's not part of this. And Elspeth, of course, being Elspeth, tells these four assailants, leave. And they're like, do you know who you's talking to? And these people, they're calling themselves Maestro Enforcers. So yes, these are the Maestros. And they're not feeling particularly happy about being told to leave so rudely by a common person. And they said that they're feeling generous. And so they'll forgive her for her poor choice in words, all the stuff she was saying, and let it not be the last mistake she makes. And so basically Elspeth gets enough scrap with these guys. And she realizes that these vampires are stronger than she is. Because they're vampires, and she didn't realize that at first. She just thought they were pale. And so Elspeth realizes that the best move for her is to leave. And so she runs away.
Like, oh, I'm so good, I should have been racist. That people can just have different skin colors, but no, the really white ones are vampires. Just like thinking to yourself on her way out.
Just like has a notepad while she's running. Vampires, maestros, okay. Like, I mean, it doesn't really make sense, but like, that's the only way to be a vampire is if you're maestro, apparently.
She meets up with Liliana again. You're looking a little pale. Liliana, vampire. No.
Do you know the maestros by chance?
Liliana goes, yes. Okay.
Basically, after she runs all that way, she realizes she does not have a weapon. And she's been cornered. And she's like in this area, like just like basically imagine her stuck in an alleyway kind of deal. And she realizes that she's stuck because the bridge is out and all this other stuff. She reaches over and she grabs a pole because there's a construction site, basically. She just grabs a random steel pole because obviously she knows how to use a spear. And so she just starts wailing on these guys using the weapon because obviously it's not a divine spear with like the amount of oomph behind it and ability to kill vampires, but she can at least ruin these guys' days. And so she knocked out everyone but their leader. And he's like, hey, let's not be too hasty. We can talk like civilized. And then he just real quick puts out his finger to shoot her. Because obviously that's how magic works here. You can shoot people with your fingers.
Obviously.
And so she's able to knock him unconscious with like the pole without ever like actually happening. And she knows, like, this is right here. They might have trained to be the strong arms of a family, but Elspeth had fought with gods. Like, there's just a skill gap there, right? Well, then she sees another vampire, and he shows up, and I just love the way it goes because he has this huge grin, and he's got like a very specific stubble line on his jaw and everything. And she goes, "Your buddy's just taking a nap. I don't want any more trouble." And he goes, "Looks like trouble found you today. They're not my friends. A responsibility at best. Clearly they weren't ready to be enforcers. I apologize for the lack of grace." And so she's like, "Okay, what is this happening?" And he tells her, "If you're that deadly with a metal stick, what could you do with the real thing?" And so basically this guy continues to talk to her, and he pushes away the stick that's pointed directly at him and asks if she would like to get into business with him. And she's like, "I do not want to have any business with you. I'm not interested." And he goes, "Oh, so who are you working for then?" And she's like, "I don't work for anyone. I don't want to work for anyone."
I'm a waitress.
Yeah, he's like, "So you want to waste your talents, is what you're saying?" She goes, "No, I just want to work in a call center." So basically, he's like, "I can give you this amount of money. You'll be able to do this and all that." And she's like, I'm not interested in money. And he's like, "So Halo." And she's like, "No, maybe." And he's like, "It's always Halo." And she's like, "Well, what about it?" He goes, "I could give you like a regular amount of it if that's what you want. Yeah, I'm not cabaret, but that doesn't mean that our storehouses are dry." And so when she says, "Why do you think I would want it?" she tries to phrase the question to give away as little as possible, but he immediately picks up on the fact that she does not want Halo, which is weird because everyone in New Capenna wants Halo. And he merely says, "You're not from around here." And she's like, "Of course I am." He goes, No. Anyone from New Capenna knows exactly why they want Halo. There's always a reason to covet it. You wear the fashions of New Capenna, but you're clearly not one of us." And so he's like, obviously she's thinking, okay, I'm going to have to fight this vampire who looks a lot stronger than they are. I don't know him. He's Maestro, though, and he thinks these guys are weaklings, and they were. He goes, "It's all right." And it's like, what? We all start somewhere. Why don't you start with the Maestros? We don't have an opportunity for new recruits from the outside ruins often. Surprised anyone still lives out there, frankly. And if you're curious about the history of New Capenna, then you'd be thrilled to know that y'all young family members start in the museum up in Park Heights. Where are my manners? Forgive me. I'm Angelo. And so basically her in with the Maestros is Angelo.
I love that.
It's so good. And I mean, just the idea of like the setup of how she meets him. And so she's obviously wary, but she also knows that that would be the best place to go to find out more about the history of this place. And so she's like, "I'm Elspeth." And he goes, "Oh, Elspeth. Huh. You're a few generations out of date for a name like that." And so, because Angelo being a vampire has been around quite a while. So the idea is that if you go back enough generations, you would see a name like Elspeth show up. That's the kind of name that would still be used out in the ruins because they're in the past. Now you have a lot more glamorous names like Henzi, the Toolbox, stuff like that.
Dore.
Yeah. And so she looks up at a bunch of statues that are all over the carving, like all over the place. And he's like, "Oh, those that they're all over the city, aren't they?" And he goes, "They're the angels." And he points at two figures that are locked in battle. And this is the cool part. Just this description. A winged woman held a sword triumphant over a fallen foe, but she wasn't the one that had caught Elspeth's eye. It was the hunched and spined creature reaching up for the stony woman with its clawed, bony fingers and open maw. A creature of sharp angles and nightmares.
It could be your angle or your nightmare.
Or your Phyrexian. There are Phyrexian statues all over New Capenna, and no one pays it any mind because they're just statues. There's a ton of angel statues too, but it's just because they were part of the whole deal.
Elspeth goes, "But that's not what's traumatizing me."
And so while that's happening, Angelo's like, "Hey, this is back to the Mezio," And he's like, so what do you say? Good money, room and board. All you have to do are a few jobs here and there. And she's like, uh-huh, a few jobs. But she looks around and she's like, then the Maestro's Museum has more information on sculptures like this. The one that they talked about. More information. Even better, the family owns hundreds of sculptures like this, thanks to our curator. So basically, this is exactly what she needs, what she was looking for. So she knows that she has to agree. If whatever dirty business they have in the shadows, she's going to have to support if she wants to learn more about Capenna. Then we get our epilogue, which admittedly, this shows up relatively quickly in the storyline, but as far as how long we've had to talk about Capenna, this is the appearance of Obnixilis. It's episode 2 as far as the story itself is concerned, but it's at the end of episode 2 where we get this little minor moment where it says the adversary, which again, not saying Obnixilis, it's just the adversary, sits in a room. And he's there, and there's these people giving him basically the stuff he needs. And they give him a folder, and he's looking through the folder, and he says, ah. And that is what the font truly is. And he starts laughing. And he goes, the font is that? Pathetic. So much power, so ripe for the taking. And the cabaret were practically asking for it to be stolen. And so he says, you know what this means, don't you? It means we're going to make the crescendo one massive party.
Oh, no.
Here's to taking over the plane. And he holds up a glass of Halo, and everybody else is like, yeah! And that's basically how this little chunk of story ends.
So New Capenna is basically the Batman, where they never say his name, but you know it's Obnixilis. It's like, who's that? That's vengeance.
I am vengeance. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
That's good. I like Elspeth's in there. That's cool.
Yeah, because Elspeth obviously is mono white. She would never naturally join the Maestros, but they're the only source of lore for her, which is why she joins them. You wouldn't know anybody else like that, right?
What?
Take it away,
mean,
Joe.
You wouldn't know anybody who would join a guild just to, have fun all the time and not have to work because you have skills in something. Like, what? Party?
What?
Me? Not have to do anything? No. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to go ahead and catch you guys next time with more of this New Capenna build-up. Go ahead and leave a like if you like the video and subscribe for more New Capenna. It's not new anymore because we waited like a couple months to tell you guys about it, but it's there.
It's Capenna.
Until next time, travel through water, or whatever Ricky says.
Into a well. Yeah, close enough.